Hey Sun Devil fans, Sandy Charles here with DevilsDigest.com, and I'm joined by our publisher, Hode Rubino. We're here previewing this Saturday's game. ASU travels to Oregon to take on the Ducks. So Hode, this Saturday's game is a little different in the dynamic in that before ASU hits the field to play, they're going to find out who won or lost in the Utah at Colorado game, which can definitely affect them winning the Pac-12 South. Do you think this will have any effect or any impact on their playing that night?
I think it's going to be impossible for ASU, whether it's coaches or players, to absolutely ignore what happened a few hours before kickoff in that game. And just to break down the scenario real quick, if Utah wins at Colorado, ASU has to win the next two games at Oregon, at Arizona. No ifs, no buts, if they do want to win the Pac-12 South. If Utah loses at Colorado, then Arizona State has a little more margin of an error. Obviously now they're also dependent on what happens in the Arizona at Washington State game. But if Utah loses on Saturday, Arizona loses on Saturday, and ASU wins, they win the Pac-12 South on Saturday night. So I really can't say that a Utah win or loss gives ASU less or more motivation. Obviously they want to win this game, if not to keep their chances alive, maybe even have a chance, again, depending on Utah and Arizona, to actually win the Pac-12 South outright on the same night of the Oregon game. I happen to be a soccer fan, and probably a lot of us watching this are soccer fans too. And what I like in the World Cup is that the last stage of the preliminary round, all the games in the division are played at the same time, and I think that would add so much drama to this Pac-12 South scenario if that were to happen. But nonetheless, I don't know if it's going to be like a major effect of Arizona State already knowing the Utah score or not knowing it. I do think that what's important for Arizona State, and I know Herm Edwards just talked about this the other day, is really for this team to have the personality of their coach. And Herm Edwards always prides himself of being very, very even-keeled, very, very focused on the task of hand, not having any distractions from the outside affect them. And I think for Arizona State to win this game, which again they really do have to win no matter what Utah does at Colorado, I think it's important more than ever for them to take on the personality of their coach and to be really, really even keel and not let the result of the Utah-Colorado game affect the way they play against Oregon, because again, at the end of the day, they have to win that game to either keep their chances alive, if not perhaps win the Pac-12 South on Saturday night.
Now, UCLA and Oregon defenses have a lot of similarities, but the fact of the matter is that ASU probably left a lot of points on the board last week, which could be an issue for them. Do you see them being more successful this weekend on this side of the ball as compared to last week?
I really like to think that they would be more successful. I mean, like you said, between the pick six that Manny Wilkins had and the missed field goal by Brandon Reese, Arizona State really could have won more convincingly, probably scoring 40 or more points in that contest last Saturday. So I just feel that the offense is probably not coming into this game with as much momentum as they had after the USC or the Utah game, where they scored 38 points and really looked very, very dominant for long stretches of each and every contest. You look at the Oregon team just as a whole, the losers of three of the last four games. So obviously there's a lot of issues on defense to talk about. The pass defense is ranked nationally, I believe, number 107. Very similar to what we've seen in Arizona State in recent years. The rushing defense is ranked, I believe somewhere in the upper 60s. So I think maybe you might be tempted really to try and establish a passing game against Oregon, but I think that also at the same time, when you look at what the Ducks have done or not done the last three games, they have given up 199 yards on the ground or more in each of those three games. And when they played Washington State 4 weeks ago, Washington State bothered to run the ball. They might have got 190 yards too, but as we know, the Cougars really are all about the passing game, not so much of establishing the run. But nonetheless, I think that this really plays very well into the Arizona State's wheelhouse on offense, if you will. You know, Benjamin, the running game, we've been talking about it for weeks, and it might be boring, but it's also at the same time very successful for the Sun Devils, really establishing themselves with a ground attack. And I think that's going to be even more imperative in this contest. We're going to talk in a second about Justin Herbert, the quarterback for Oregon, an outstanding player. And if you can keep a quarterback like that off the field for long stretches, and obviously a stout running game can do the job, that can go a long way in establishing Arizona State's success. Just look what happened last week. Even though, like you said, it wasn't a great offensive performance for Arizona State, they had back-to-back drives of 15 plays each that combined consumed almost 15 minutes of possession. If Arizona State can come anywhere close to having drives like that on Saturday, that can really go a long way. And again, I really feel that they have a defense that really provides opportunities for long drives, let alone a lot of points on the board.
Now, the ASU defense is going up against, you just named Justin Herbert, who is the top quarterback in the Pac-12 and going to probably go in the top or first round in the NFL draft. How can this ASU defense slow them down, such a dynamic, explosive, but also well-balanced offense?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the well-balanced is probably maybe the bigger factor that people might overlook because, like I said, it's all about Justin Herbert. I mean, absolutely gifted signal caller, the best Arizona State's going to face all year, the best in the conference, hands down. And his target is wide receiver Dylan Mitchell, who does put up N'Keal Harry-like numbers, if you will, and just another playmaker that every time the ball's in his hands, you really just your heart may skip a beat because you think a big play is just about to come. And obviously Herbert and Mitchell have had a lot of success during the year. I mean, even though Oregon may not have a lot to show in terms of wins and losses, just being 6-4, just like Arizona State, usually when they explode on offense, it's really a sight to see. And Herbert and Mitchell usually the thick of thing. I also think the rushing game really cannot be overlooked. Cesar Verdell and the rest of the running backs for the Ducks are very, very formidable. I would see the Arizona State defense maybe playing some zone cover 2, Tampa 2, maybe willing to take some lumps on the ground game, but making sure that Justin Herbert and Dylan Mitchell or any of the other wide receivers don't hit you with that big play over the top. And I really, when you talk about the weather conditions, it's going to be a cold night in Eugene. Not going to be any rain, but I could see maybe teams trying really to run the ball more just because of those conditions. I'm not saying that maybe ASU would put more emphasis on it than Oregon, but again, I just feel that if you're tempting Oregon to run the ball more, then rather stacking the line of the scrimmage and daring Justin Herbert to beat you, because I think he will beat you. I think that's probably the prudent approach. But one thing I think that we just cannot overlook that is Arizona State has been very, very physical at the line of scrimmage in the last 3 games. When you look at that period of time, they have averaged just under 3 sacks and just under 6 tackles for loss in those contests. So I like to think that if Arizona State was able to establish a line of scrimmage against such a physical Utah team, that they're able to do it against Oregon, which I wouldn't call them a finesse team, but I think in terms of physicality factor, they still fall a good few notches below Utah, and they lost to Utah last week too. So I think it's just going to be, we have to be a very, very smart approach. You can't have what Herm would like to say, the casino blitz, where you just bring in the house and all your cards are on the table. You really have to be judicious with your blitzes, but I think it's really going to more come to just presenting coverages that may confuse Justin Herbert, having things just an extra 2 or 3 seconds longer, and let a pretty good front 6 right now for Arizona State. Again, that's doing a pretty good job with sacks and tackles for loss to go to work as Justin Herbert is trying to decipher exactly what coverage he's looking at. But it's going to be a really tough task. I mean, if UCLA gave fits to Arizona State last week, and not a lot of people expected that to happen, I think that an offense like Oregon, which is very potent, very capable, can do just the same for Arizona State.
Now, we talked a lot about there's so much riding on this game. And not only that, but it's also a road game, and ASU struggles with road game. Do you think they can pull off the rare road win?
Haven't been too great with my predictions as of late, although I did nail the UCLA game last week. But then again, I did predict a rout by the Sun Devils. It was a very close game. When I look at this game from an Oregon perspective, they really have nothing to play for. They're already bowl eligible, as I said, 6-4 record. They cannot win the North no matter what. Right now, they're just playing for just a better bowl position, if you will. And again, being losers of 3 of the last 4 games, I mean, you're catching Oregon probably at a pretty good spot if you're Arizona State. But I have to also objectively look at Arizona State, and like you said, the struggles on the road, and even that game against USC. And I know you can say there's no such thing as an ugly game. I'm sorry, no ugly win, especially when you're beating a South foe. But that really wasn't like such an impressive performance by the Sun Devils. And again, all the road games preceding to it, the performances were definitely not convincing in that vein. So that's something that concerns me. And again, just to go back to an earlier point, I feel that Arizona State's not really walking into this game with a lot of swagger as they did after the USC win, as they did after the Utah win. And this game against UCLA was pretty disappointing, I think, on both sides of the ball, and even special teams too. So I do have my concerns, do have my doubts of Arizona State really correcting all these shortcomings in just a week, and really being able to go back to their dominant self like they were just 2-3 weeks ago. So I think that Oregon's actually going to come on top over here and beat Arizona State 31-24.
Hey, thank you so much, Hode. For Hode Rubino, I'm Sandy Charles. Keep it locked in at DevilsDigest.com for all of our in-game and post-game coverage, and of course throughout the entire 2018 season, which is just a few weeks left, but we'll see you Saturday.